With the silence of an extinct world still heavy upon us, we made our way to the upper end of the valley. But at the gates of the plain, life came surging to meet us. A wild hollyhock stood sentinel among the stones. It had spread some of its yellow petals for banner, and on its uplifted spears the buds were fat and creamy with coming bloom. Rain had fallen in the night and had cooled the wilderness itself to life, clothing its thorns with a purple garment of tiny flowers. The delicious sun struck upon our shoulders. A joyful little wind blew the damp, sweet smell of the reviving earth in gusts towards us. Our horses sniffed the air, and catching the infection of the moment, tugged at the bit and set off at a racing speed across the rain-softened ground. And we, too, passed out of the silence and remembered that we lived. Life seized us and inspired us with a mad sense of revelry. The humming wind and the teeming earth shouted, "Life! Life!" as we rode. Life! Life! The bountiful, the magnificent. Age was far from us, death far. We had left him enthroned in his barren mountains, with ghostly cities and outworn faiths to bear him company. For us the wide plain and the limitless world, for us the beauty and the freshness of the morning, for us youth and the joy of living. Hello everyone, and welcome to the latest episode of Book Time with Elvis. In this video I'm going to do a little wrap up of what I've read in March and then some of the books I plan to read in April. Now that quotation you heard at the beginning was from one of the books that I read for Women's History Month. So I'll start with that. That was Persian Pictures by Gertrude Bell. And Gertrude Bell, I mentioned her before, she was she was an author, historian, and also worked for the government. She was instrumental in the formation of the Arab states after the First World War. She was close friends with people like Colonel Lawrence, Lawrence of Arabia and whatnot. And she wrote this book, Persian Pictures, in 1894, and it's a splendid book, I have to say. It's not a very big book, and I think you get the sense from that quotation there at the beginning that it lives up to its name. There aren't actually any pictures in the book, not at least in the copy I've got, but you don't need them. The way she writes is just very picturesque. You don't need the pictures at all, really. She really is able to conjure up those images in a very, very special way. And if you're interested in reading a kind of very descriptive travelogue of a Victorian woman's journey to Persia or current-day Iran, then I would definitely recommend it. And she's a remarkable woman, so I would even recommend reading books about her if you get the chance. So what did I read in March? It was actually the first time I've set myself the goals of reading certain books according to certain themes, and I found it quite difficult, and I put myself under quite a bit of pressure, really, because I mentioned before I'm a terrible mood reader, so I normally don't plan in advance what I'm going to read, and I usually start about 6 or 7 books before I settle on one that I'm going to see through to the end, and then go back to those others later. So for March Mystery Madness, I did read 2. I suppose they could be classified as cozy mystery. Certainly the first one, Fatal Finds in Nuala by Harriet Steele. I've mentioned that in another video, but I really enjoyed it. It's a lovely little series, very short books, and they are little mysteries that take place in a small town in colonial Ceylon, current-day Sri Lanka. So I don't think I need to say any more about that because I had finished it by one of the other videos I did. The other one I read was by Alexander McCall Smith, and it was The Department of Sensitive Crimes. This is it's part of the Inspector Varg series, and it's a series following a strange kind of police department that deals with unusual crimes within the Malmö police department in Sweden. And I'd only read a novella that kind of introduced this character to us, and I really enjoyed that one. But this one, it was weird. I liked it. I did like it, but it was quite strangely written, and it was almost, I don't know, it was almost like small vignettes or different stories that didn't really come together. There was a kind of a main mystery that ran through it, but other side ones. It was, I guess I should expect that from Alexander McCall Smith, actually, and I'm not sure it would be everybody's cup of tea, but I quite enjoyed it. The other thing I took part in was Women's History Month, and I've already mentioned Persian Pictures by Gertrude Bell. And I've talked extensively in another video about the book I finished about the life of Mary Seacole. So the book I read of hers was her memoir, The Wonderful Adventures of Mrs. Seacole in Many Lands. And the third book for Women's History Month I've yet to finish, but it's a very special book and I believe it deserves its own video, which I will get around to making at some point, and that is A Woman in Berlin by Anonymous. So I won't say too much about that because, as I say, I would like to have that as its own video. I deferred my March of the Mammoths because I think I took too much on. That was The Vietnam War by Max Hastings. It is an excellent book, but it was rather hard going given everything else I had on. So I will come back to that at a later stage. It's certainly not DNF'd because I like it, but I do feel it's a book that you can dip in and out of the way it's set up into different, the different segments of the war, and it is quite massive. So that I will dip in and out of occasionally. Coming up in April, I'm very excited because I have my first buddy read, and this is Interior Chinatown by Charles Yu, and this will be with Sina from Beating Around the Books. Really looking forward to that. I've never done a buddy read before, and I think it will be very interesting. The other books I've started already in April are North and South by John Jakes, and I've done this in part due to recommendations by people like Vin at Revenant Reads and Bill Ruttenburg at the Ruttenburg Library. When I asked them once about books on the American Civil War, a subject I know very little about. I know it's historical fiction, but actually so far it's so very good, really enjoying it. And although it's a big book, it doesn't seem like it, and I can't wait actually after doing this video to get back and read some more. The other book I've started but I'm not very far into is The Sixth Extinction by Elizabeth Colbert. I thought I'd like a little bit of non-fiction this month, so I started that, and as I said, I'm not very far into it, just past the introduction really, but I'm looking forward to continuing with that. And then a few other books that I hope to read this month. One is not the whole of this book, but because it's 3 novels in one book, so I'm going to split them up. And the first one that I want to read from this is On Black Hill, and it's the story of 2 eccentric brothers who lived together in early 20th century Wales, I think, on a farm, and it seems quite interesting. So I'll be able to talk about that more once I've read it. One I've had for a while and been meaning to get to, and everybody said is really interesting, is HHH, and I'll talk about that more once I've read it, but I'm really looking forward to getting into that one. And another one I've had for a really long time and been meaning to read is this memoir called Gweilo, which is a memoir of a Hong Kong childhood of an English boy who grew up in Hong Kong, and I'm very much looking forward to starting that. So those are my plans for April. We'll see if I manage to get through them all. And as I say, I'll come back at some point later this month with a video on A Woman in Berlin, which I think really does deserve its own video. So thank you very much for watching, and I wish you all, of course, good luck in your own reading endeavours as we head into this new month. And please take care of yourselves, stay healthy, and see you all soon. All the best. Bye bye.